story of Zovaal, how one NPC destroyed the WoW franchise. So this is a video made by Aquilon. I think Aquilon's a really good content creator. I like him a lot. Sometimes he comes into the stream even. He's a straight shooter, direct, straight talker. I like the guy a lot. We're gonna go ahead and watch this video here.
I did this discussion where I said the very idea that Zovaal is basically behind the actions of everything. And when I say everything, I mean literally the actions of...
The thing is, like, if Zovaal was behind everything that happened in the game, right? If Zoval's behind everything that happens in the game, like, it takes the agency away from all the other characters. Because, like, now, it's not actually really them pulling the strings and them being in control. It's now just Zovaal doing everything behind the scenes. You see what I'm saying?
Everything since vanilla. Actually, he's behind all of the things that happened since Warcraft 2, really.
That's convenient.
Right? The very idea
how convenient that is.
Of that is laughable. Because there's a lot of lore and situations that fall completely flat and completely destroy itself, if that's the truth.
Yeah.
A lot of things
The thing is, like, what it did, Zovaal, the worst thing that Zovaal did is it took Sylvanas, which was the most interesting character, the most interesting female character in WoW, in my opinion. Is there a more interesting female character in WoW besides Sylvanas? And it takes this multi-dimensional character and it flattens it down to one layer. Zovaal controlled her and made her do it. I think Sylvanas is way more interesting than Jaina. I think that Jaina not understanding her emotions is the reason why we've had like 3 expansions. Like, holy fuck, man. I don't want to hear about Jaina, okay? Like, the fact is, like, I think Sylvanas is one of the... Even if you don't think Sylvanas is number 1, she's probably in the top 3. So, like, it takes a character that, like, is morally gray. Like, unironically, actually morally gray. It takes that character and it just flattens it. It flattens it. It takes, like, everything and it just attributes it to this off-screen force, which is not satisfying to a viewer. Like, that's what was so annoying about the cinematic, that the fucking Shadowlands cinematic, where, like, Sylvanas just beat Bolvar and it was easy. Like, if Sylvanas, like whenever the Arthas had Frostmourne, you knew that Arthas was more powerful because he had fucking Frostmourne. And whenever, Bolvar was more powerful, well, you knew he was more powerful because he had the fucking Helm of Domination on and he was the Lich King. But, like, Sylvanas, you don't really see that empowering device on screen. So it just seems like it doesn't make any fucking sense. And that's the real problem that this kind of stuff has, is that it's not a satisfying experience for the viewer. Now, this is the main issue with Zovaal, is that it's not satisfying. More than anything, really, I think. It stole her agency, yeah. Leave it to Blizzard to take player agency, take character agency away from a woman. They're even doing it in the lore. And the worst part about it is they think it's a good story.
Be retconned or very clearly explained, because they don't make a lot of sense if Zovaal was in fact behind all of those things.
No, it doesn't.
Right? So that's sort of the first big problem.
Yeah.
Then you have a massive problem with Kel'Thuzad. I'll give you guys a couple of examples here.
I feel like Kel'Thuzad is like Team Rocket in Pokemon. If Kel'Thuzad comes back even after he's been clearly destroyed, like the Phylactery is destroyed, Kel'Thuzad is banished into oblivion, and the next expansion, Kel'Thuzad is back. It's like nobody's even mad about this anymore. It's like, oh, of course he's back. He had the other secret Phylactery that we didn't know about, and he came back through that one. Oh, man, like, we really got fucking fooled, huh? He got us again. Yeah, maybe he had 2 Phylacteries. So, like, at a certain point, you just kind of let it go. I think that Kel'Thuzad is that level of a character now. It's like it's a comic book villain.
Actually made me aware of this. I completely forgot about it. Kel'Thuzad's story in Shadowlands was as if Blizzard completely ignored the story of Kel'Thuzad.
Was like if... I mean, let's be honest, man. Isn't that what every story was in Shadowlands? I mean, really? Like, isn't that like the most of the stories in Shadowlands is like if they forgot about everything else that happened previously? I wonder why. You look like Jesus today. You gonna crucify me?
In the past. right? Calthazar actually, right at the end, changed his mind. And then in Shadowlands, he's like, yeah, it was always part of the jailer, right? I was always a friend of the jailer. I think, no, you weren't. There's actual evidence of you changing your mind, right? Yeah. There's actual evidence that you weren't as convinced towards the end. Mal'Ganis is another character that in Icecrown Citadel, Mal'Ganis turned against the jailer, and now it's like, oh, apparently not. Don't worry about it, right? Well, actually,
yeah, because they just took. See, like, I actually thought it was a really good idea for Denathrius to be the sire of all of the Dreadlords. And the Dreadlord plot, like, we finally get to the bottom of it, and like it creates, like, I thought that was a really good part of this story. Like, the Dreadlords were actually part of this, like, fucking multi-millennia long plot, and they were created by Denathrius, and you have these other Dreadlords like Lothraxion that are like, they're in this side of the Army of the Light, but it like sheds a shadow of doubt on like every other Dreadlord that you've worked with. It's like, why are the Dreadlords doing things? Do they all have these secret motives? Like, it was really interesting storyline, and like basically everything surrounding Denathrius was good, and everything surrounding the jailer is bad. Like, and if you really think about it, does it really get any more complicated than that? Not really.
He turned against the Lich King, but you know, you get the gist of it, right? Mal'Ganis wasn't always on the side of the jailer, and apparently he was. You know, these are lore stories that isn't explained. No. I don't think Blizzard is going to explain them.
Why would
they don't make much sense. The whole story of Sylvanas becomes extremely difficult to follow.
Yeah.
If indeed Zuvul was behind everything, right? The story of Sylvanas becomes very difficult to sort of marry with what we have right now.
It's weird.
I think for the most part, this Zuvul storyline falls completely flat because they made Zuvul the ultimate enemy. Right, they sort of went back and inserted him into every part of the history of World of Warcraft, whether he made sense to be there or not. Right, because there's a bunch of stuff in World of Warcraft where the jailer doesn't make a lot of sense, but according to them, he is 100% behind those things. Right, so when you really start to dive into the world of World of Warcraft in that regard, you start to realize that something is going on here that isn't gonna be easily.
I always wonder, like, how much of this is like an ego from the writers, the current writers of the story, that like they want to have ownership over the story that they've effectively like inherited. So what they're doing is they are creating different points of agency and different reasons why things are happening in the story in order to give themselves ownership of the events that happen. But you see kind of what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking about like, oh, Steve Denuser added in Thanos because he's in love with Sylvanas. Like, that's... it's kind of funny, right? But like, I don't really give a shit about that. Like, I care more about like the larger scale of it. And I think that this is kind of what's happening, is that they're trying to effectively have like their own ownership of the story, which like in a way it makes sense because like they have a direction they want to take it in. But I think that it's been a little bit too much. They have an ego problem. But how do they want to relate Illidan and Sargeras to Zovul? I think that there's two options, right? Like Illidan and Sargeras, like the jailer is probably gonna die now at the end of 9.2, right? So like in my opinion, I think that the best outcome for the story would have been the jailer wins. It's the end of Infinity War, and then the beginning of Endgame, the new expansion, is us going back to the Pantheon, enlisting Sargeras and Illidan to come back and help us kill the jailer. Right? Like, that would have been the best storyline, in my opinion. Would have allowed the jailer to remake Azeroth. You do a second Cataclysm. You change up a lot of the rules of the game. And you can effectively modernize the game through the lens of the lore and the jailer remaking reality, right? Because that's literally what's happening. So they're not doing that, though. Like, they're not doing the idea that I think is way cooler. Instead, what they're doing is that we kill the jailer, he's dead, and then the jailer's dead, and so we don't have to worry about him anymore because we killed him. His 40,000-year plot has been ended in a single patch. Done. Gotcha.
Fixed. Very specifically, Steve Denuser will never fix this. Let me be clear. To everyone that may not know exactly where I stand, and you're welcome to have a difference of opinion here, I believe that Steve Denuser should be fired from Blizzard tomorrow. I believe that Steve Denuser is a plague on the video game that we call World of Warcraft.
Nothing held back.
Steve Denuser is one of the worst writers I've ever seen in my entire life, especially with a game that is supposed to be about story. You know, one of the things that
you forget about that, don't you? I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think that Steve Denuser is probably just the face of the narrative design team. And it's actually like Steve, like, yeah, Steve's probably got some dumb ideas on his own, but like there's probably like 30 other people that are behind Steve that are fucking things up more than he is. Like, I'm not ready to blame everything on him, but I think there's a number of fucking questions that he has to answer for, right? Because like it is, at the end of the day, he's the face of it, right? So like it'd be great if we could have him just like have a no bullshit interview with somebody like Akalon, or probably not Pyromancer nowadays, but somebody who cares about the lore and knows about it. Like, I wouldn't even put myself in this category because I don't know enough about it, but just have that person ask, like, Nobble, yeah, sure, and just kind of answer the questions. Is Nathanos a self-insert, right? Answer the questions, why the fuck did you just take Sylvanas' agency away by giving it to the jailer? Like, what the fuck, man? And, like, I want to know why. Because, like, I think, again, like, a really good insight that I think that you can have into the way that Steve Denuser looks at the game is that he thought Season 8 for Game of Thrones was really good. And the problem with saying that is that he's not entirely wrong. And what I mean by that is that Season 8 for Game of Thrones should have happened, but it really should have been Season 9. And it should have been Season 8 that leads up to what happens at the end of it. Because it was a lack of foreshadowing, it was a lack of character development, and it was really, really ham-fisted and kind of like forced in the end, right? It seemed like it happened, like things just changed immediately. So the story itself is not that bad, it's just the way that it's being told. And you look over at World of Warcraft, and it sure seems to be the same problem. You see what I'm saying? More like Season 12, yeah, or Season 15. But you see what I'm saying, though, right? Like that I don't think that the end of Game of Thrones was bad. I think that the problem is that it wasn't properly developed. It's the same thing with Shadowlands. Like, if we're going to beat the jailer or whatever, like, that's fine. But, like, it's just really not properly developed.
Me, very much in love with World of Warcraft, has been the story.
Giga Rushed, yeah. There you go.
I fell in love with World of Warcraft's story in Warcraft 2.
I loved the story back then. Warcraft
and it's
3
always
too.
been a love affair for me with the story, through thick and thin, through bad expansions and good. I've always stuck around because of the story, even BFA.
I stopped really giving a shit about the story whenever WoD happened. I feel like as soon as you add in time travel, all bets are off. And like, you had the Bronze Dragonflight ever since Vanilla WoW, right? However, the Bronze Dragonflight, their purpose was to keep the timeline pure. So the end result is that the timeline stays the same, and the people that are trying to change it get stopped.
You know, there was a time in BFA where I got really pissed off and I really hated the game because it played shit. But then I came back because I really missed the story. The problem is that I've been holding on since BFA, waiting for the story to actually start to make sense, to actually fit somewhere.
A lot of people have been waiting for
now
that.
In Shadowlands, it feels even more broken.
And the good thing with like Legion, for example, is like Legion was the name of the expansion was Legion. And what you did in Legion is you had to fight the Burning Legion. And like at the beginning, you have the Emerald Nightmare, which is like, why the fuck does this exist, right? But then the main raid, you have the Nighthold, and it's like, that's where Gul'dan is. Gul'dan's trying to use Sargeras to fucking Illidan to be an avatar for Sargeras, basically. And so we fucking kill Gul'dan, and Illidan's on our side now. And then the Tomb of Sargeras, then we fucking kill Kil'jaeden, and we go to Argus, and then Argus comes out, and like, yeah, you've got like the Trial of Valor, but like, really, I love Trial of Valor. I thought it was an incredible raid. It was a great addition to the game, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that big of a fucking deal. Like, Trial of Valor didn't matter that much, and Trial of Valor mattered more to Shadowlands than it did to Legion. So anyway, but the content, the gameplay of Trial of Valor was great. I loved Mythic Helya, even though I hated it. And so anyway, like, then you go to Antorus and you defeat the Burning Legion, right? There is continuity across the entire thing. There is one defined goal that just follows the entire expansion, and that goal at the end of the expansion is met. We fucking beat him. Like, the only complaint that I have about the Legion narrative is that the Sargeras cinematic wasn't 20 minutes long. That's the only thing that I don't like. Everything else about it was fucking perfect. It was great. Like, we fucking, you beat Sargeras and you don't even talk to him? Why? Like, shouldn't Illidan be like, I got you, bitch? You know, or something?
Than what it did in BFA, you know? At least in BFA, some of the story was cohesive and coherent, and sort of tracked with the history and lore of World of Warcraft. Now, in Shadowlands, we have retcon upon retcon. Some things they don't even have the respect to retcon it. They're just sort of pretending, right? They're just going, fuck it. Well, we just won't tell them. Let me ask you.
I have no problem if this is the strategy that they use to deal with bad game design. If, like, the problem is that, players don't like farming out reputation on alt, so we're going to make reputation account-wide. Well, how does that make sense in the lore that a random guy, like, there's, like, this thing, and it's like a reference system that WoW has, and your main character sent a reference to the faction to your all. It's like a nepotism friend of a friend thing. It's like, why can't I do it with my friend that just started playing the game? So that's the crazy thing is, thanks a lot for your ticket. And here's a GM joke. What does a Murloc say? I don't know either. Please give me a 5 or I'm going to get fired. Right? Like, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. Do that all you fucking want. But I don't want to see bullshit rationalizations for the lore for more lore. Like, I'm only accepting that if it's game design.
Guys, what's the deal between Helya and Sylvanas? Anyone in chat? I'll take by the silence. No one has a fucking clue. Me neither. I don't know. I can't tell.
You didn't read the book, man. You needed to read the book, and then the 6 books that were hidden in Revendreth. And then you needed to unlock the second level of dialogue from Teyla Fordragon inside of Torghast after you get into the Adamant Vaults. So this guy didn't even try, man. Yeah, he didn't even fucking try.
There's so many parts of this story which I when I go back and I think about it, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why I'm here. You know, the Primus is supposed to be this master strategist, yet he, according to them, he's never lost a battle.
He never lost a battle, but he's fucking chained up? How does this happen? What is he into, BDSM? Is he really losing there? Think about that.
Lost 2 now.
Yeah, he chained himself.
Against the jailer, right? He got caught by the jailer. And then the jailer fucked him up inside inside Torghast.
Yeah.
So that's 2 battles that he's already lost, right? He clearly doesn't. He's not that good. He's the guy who invented domination magic, yet he can't break us free from domination magic. Only Anduin can do that.
Bro, that's just like the Bible. It's original sin. Like, I mean, really, like, you think about it, it's the same fucking thing. Like, I remember thinking in the Bible, that's a plot device. Like, Jesus is a plot device. Like, why the fuck do you need to send him out there and have this guy get his ass beat? Why can't you just get rid of it? You're the one that made it, man. Like, no, for real. I was like, man, it's a fucking plot device. What is this bullshit? It's nuts. Oh my god. I think about this. The more you think about it, the worse it gets.
For some reason. Then, of course, we get this amazing promise from Blizzard Entertainment.
What's
and
the promise?
this is massive spoilers, so if you didn't want spoilers, now's
Here's
not
the
the time
promise.
to keep watching. We were promised that Blizzard was going to bring, if they were going to bring back Arthas, it was going to be in a major way. It was going to be, they would have to be careful with how they bring him back because they know how important he is to the story.
Well, I'm sure nothing's gonna go wrong there. Well, I'm sure that Arthas, there won't be any problems. I'm sure this was planned since Warcraft 3 too.
This is a blade. Now, I mean, I did call it,
Yeah.
right? But I don't know if you can say that that is respectful and in keeping with the importance of the character,
No.
right? When Arthas is the fucking blade, right? He's
the
literally
sword.
Shalamon. For those of you that don't know, Arthas is literally Shalamon. He is inside Shalamon. When you're fighting Anduin, there's a phase of the fight where you fight the Fallen King, and the Fallen King literally has the Lich King's abilities. You know, so
I bet that's probably because he's the Lich King. Bro, what? Like, I'm trying to think about, like, has that ever really worked? That, like, an object is like a spirit? Like, I don't know. I mean, he got Ner'zhul, yeah. It's just like, it just seems weird, man. It seems fucking weird. It's in Lord of the Rings, yeah, but like the ring didn't really have Sauron. Sauron wasn't in the ring. The ring was like a walkie-talkie for Sauron that empowered him, right? It was an empowering walkie-talkie. Like it was his power was. Yeah, like his power's in the ring, but he's not like really the ring. But like this is like Arthas is Shadowmourne? Like what the Shalamorn? What the fuck? Voldemort and Harry Potter? Yeah, I think that like there are some examples. That's what I was thinking of. Like, yeah, there's gotta be some examples of this being done better. But I feel like it's just like, when did we even know about this? Like, I think it's weird that like the first time you find out about this is at the fight.
you're fighting Arthas inside the blade, trying to wrest control away from Arthas, because as it turns out, Arthas is the one that's controlling Anduin. Jaina,
How
also,
convenient.
when she comes close to Anduin, she says that she senses a...
And why would Arthas be controlling Anduin? Why wouldn't the jailer just control Anduin? Whenever Arthas, at the very end of it, like, this is, like, logically, this is what would make sense to me, is at the end of Icecrown Citadel, whenever we break Frostmourne and Arthas's Helm of Domination comes off, he's no longer, for all intents and purposes, the Lich King. He's Arthas again. So he doesn't have, like, isn't that right? I mean, like, that's what would make sense. Because, like, that's why he says, Father, is it over? It's very obvious that they're drawing a distinction between Arthas with and without the helmet and the sword. And so, like, now he doesn't have either one of those, but he's still controlling Anduin. For what fucking reason? Why? And especially, why is this happening after they tried to make Arthas a sympathetic character in the Bolvar cinematic, which was one of the best ones they've ever done, by the way? What the hell's going on? He's his son? I thought, I indulged the idea that Anduin was actually Arthas' son. I thought that could have been the case for a while, but at this point, I don't think they're going to go with that.
a familiar presence within Anduin. So she senses Arthas within him. Now, here's my problem with that specific storyline. Now Arthas is working for the jailer. Why would he do that? If his final words were, Father, is it
over?
Over?
Yeah.
And I see
Exactly.
only darkness for me. Why would he now turn around and work for the fucking jailer?
Yeah. True.
Makes no sense.
True.
It makes no sense.
True.
How are you selling this?
True.
Why would he willingly work? Because previously, according to Blizzard at least, he was only working for the jailer because of the helm, right? Even though he didn't always wear the helm.
Yeah, because of domination magic. And it wasn't, I thought it wasn't the helmet. I thought the helmet, it was like you put them together and like it fully has control. It's like the helmet, like, bro, Arthas became evil when he picked up the sword. By the time he put on the helmet, he was already fucking evil. You know what I mean? Like, he was already, like, he had already stabbed his fucking own father, thrown, what's it called? Lordaeron into oblivion before he even picked up the goddamn helmet. The helmet was just sealing the deal.
He basically always wore the helm. Now,
and also, like, the domination magic, you got to keep in mind, too, the Primus wasn't talking about making a new fucking, a new helm of domination for the jailer. He was talking about making a new weapon. It was the new weapon.
He's in the blade, and he's doing the dominating of Anduin.
Merged him with Ner'zhul. Right? Yeah.
Which is sort of like, did the jailer dominate him too? So in other words, this is actually the jailer dominates the sword, and then the sword dominates Anduin. Why don't you just...
No. The jailer dominates Arthas, whose spirit is in the sword, and then the sword dominates Anduin because it's being controlled by Arthas, who's being controlled by the jailer. It's dominationception.
Dominate Anduin directly? What the fuck's going on? What is going on? How many layers of this story is there? Like, how many... Like, this is too much domination, right? It's just domination all the way down, which is really annoying, because you don't need that.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do that to our boy. You know, it's our boy. Look what they did to our boy.
Look how they
So yeah, I'm gonna be honest with all of you. I am angry.
Yeah.
And I recognize that there's a lot of people that on Twitter, as well as I feel
like there's so many plot devices in Shadowlands, like the split soul. I think the split soul thing is even dumber than this. I hate the split soul thing. Like, I hate mulligans in stories. In general, mulligans are just, they're so boring to me because it takes the weight out of people's actions completely. It's like, now, actually it wasn't him doing it, it was somebody else. It's like, well, okay, like, how does this make me feel as a viewer?
To literally hide a bunch of fucking assholes on the channel. Yesterday was a very busy day for me. I probably hit like 4, almost 5 people on the channel.
That's crazy. That's a lot of people.
Who basically accused me of lying, saying I'm just going after the negative clicks, right? I just want the negative clicks.
And I think that people, like, isn't it weird if everybody's going after negative clicks? Like, doesn't that seem like maybe there's a pattern here? Like, why are negative clicks so popular, right? I mean, like, it's crazy how that happens. Yeah, why are there so many people that agree with the negative videos? I wonder why. It's like, that's not the case with Final Fantasy. So, like, it's not the case with old school RuneScape either. You can't just blame the entire thing on, fucking Final Fantasy cultists, because, like, RuneScape, old school RuneScape doesn't have that either. Guild Wars doesn't really have that either, I don't think. From what I've seen, like, the people that like Guild Wars like Guild Wars. Dark Souls doesn't have that. Like, it's not popular to shit on Dark Souls either. So, like, how are there all these other games? Because I know you cannot make the argument, because negative stuff is more popular. But what about these other what about this fucking laundry list of examples that prove that wrong? You know what I think is popular? Things that resonate with the audience. Things that people see and they're like, yeah, true. That's what's popular.
I don't know how to be positive about this without lying. Like, if I'm gonna sit here and be positive about the story of WoW, I'm gonna have to lie, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sit here and I'm gonna have to lie out of my ass, because I'm not positive about the story of WoW. I'm not. I don't think that Steve Denuser knows what the fuck he's doing.
I think that it's actually, we're so lucky that we're gonna end Shadowlands. And nothing in Shadowlands is going to ever matter in the story again. You guys know that, right? Like, the jailer, we're never going to hear about the jailer again. We're never going to hear about the Winter Queen again. Like, we're going to leave the Shadowlands. Nobody is coming with us. Nothing is going to change. It's going to be a mulligan expansion. It's going to be just like Warlords of Draenor. If you are a new WoW player and you play, Burning Crusade, Wrath, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Legion, everything still makes sense. Like, it really all pretty much makes sense, except for, where's this green orc guy come from? Oh, whatever, right? Like, that's the only thing that had any impact beyond the WoD expansion was Gul'dan came back. Gul'dan came back to be a domino in the domino effect of Sargeras. Like, that was about it. Everything else was just the same. It was retconned. And yeah, you can just easily be like, I thought Gul'dan died in the Tomb of Sargeras. Well, I guess he's back. Okay, that's it.
I think Steve Denuser has zero talent. I don't know how the guy got the fucking job. I'm still not entirely sure how he still has the job, right? Considering the fact...
I do think it's weird how there are people that work on WoW, and it's like, how do you work on the game for like 8 years, and the part that you work on is bad for 8 years? Like, how does this happen? Like, if you do this at any other job, you're gone. Like, you're done. Like, it's like, this guy, he came in and, the part that he's responsible for isn't going anywhere. It's bad. Well, it's like, how many people here can fuck up a job for 8 years and not at least get reprimanded for it, It's like, unless you work at the government, trust me, that's probably not going to happen. Even at the government, they probably get on your ass if you're doing it that long. Even in the fucking government, that's bad.
That this dude is now responsible for taking this lore and pulling it in. Like, how do you destroy something that good? Like, genuine question. All you had to do was continue writing the story of World of Warcraft. That was literally it, right? All he had to do was continue to write the story that Chris Mason laid out for him. And the dude would have been a hero. People would have loved him. And he has managed to destroy everything.
The thing is, like, I don't necessarily even entirely agree with that. I think that the problem is that he rewrote it and it wasn't good. If Steve Denuser came in there, or whoever is in charge, I don't like to blame it all on one dude, because I don't really think that, like, I don't think he's the only guy that's doing it wrong, right? Like, maybe I don't like some of the stuff he said, but, like, I mean, it's just one dude, right? Like, there's plenty of other people involved. So I'm not trying to put it all on him, but, like, if the writing team, that's represented by him, had come back and they rewrote things and it was really good, everybody wouldn't give a fuck. It wouldn't matter. The problem isn't that they rewrote it. The problem is that they rewrote it and it was worse. Resurrect dead characters because they can't make new ones, and nobody would give a fuck. Nobody gave a fuck that they just brought Gul'dan back for Legion. Was anybody complaining about that? No. People were like, oh, Legion's awesome. This is so cool. Well, why'd Gul'dan come back? Oh, who cares? Because it's cool. Oh, they brought Illidan back. Oh, well, wow, that's crazy. Like, now Illidan's back and he's on our side now. That's super cool. Nobody gives a shit. It doesn't matter if it's cool.
And I'm just sat here thinking to myself, you know who I feel very sorry for? I feel sorry for someone like Terran Gregory. I feel very sorry for Terran Gregory, because you look at that cinematic, right? The Sylvanas cinematic, and you say, wow, the art team did such a fucking good job with such a shit story. Like, they were literally given such a crap script, right? And they still managed to pull it off. They still managed to make it look good. Can you imagine what someone like...
The cinematic aesthetically was very good. I just, in a way, I don't really like the way that the WoW characters look in, like, the pre-rendered cinematics. I like the way they look generally in game, and I love the way they look in the actual cinematics. But, like, that middle ground where it's still the character models, but it's, like, high definition, I feel like a lot of the characters look weird, especially the humanoid characters. Like, people like Bane Bloodhoof look awesome, like, fuck yeah. And, like, the Jailer look awesome. But, like, they just look so much fucking better and so much cooler in the actual cinematics. Like, Jaina. I think Jaina's the worst one.
Terran could do with an actual good writer at the head of narrative development within Blizzard Entertainment?
Well, we know what he could do because he just put out the video recently. We didn't watch this today about how he made the story or the cinematic for Black Temple. Like, he's been working on WoW. Like, he helped, I think, the South Park guys make the Make Love Not Warcraft episode back fucking 15 years ago. Taron Gregory's been working on the game for years. So this isn't even a maybe, I wonder what. You just look back in time. That's the way it used to be.
Hey, can you imagine the cinematics that Taron Gregory could come up with?
Well, the thing is, like the last really, really, really good cinematic, in my opinion, like one of them at least, was the fucking Sargeras cinematic. Like, the Sargeras cinematic was, and I'm talking about like an in-game cinematic. And, like, the Jaina ones are really good, too. Yeah. But, like, the Sargeras cinematic was fucking amazing. And the problem is that there wasn't more of it. Like, nobody was complaining about what there was. What there was awesome. But that there wasn't more of it.
And I asked Taron Gregory a couple of months ago.
Old Soldier was good, too. But that's like a higher level of
by the way, so this is not something that was hidden. I just asked him a question. I asked Taron, is there any cinematics coming up that you think is going to be incredibly impactful, that's going to leave the audience with that wow factor, right? It's a couple of months ago. It's like 3-4 months ago. I asked Taron this, and Taron's answer was interesting to me. Now, I'm not saying that's what Taron meant. He's way too nice a guy to probably ever have meant this, but it's sort of like, it made me chuckle, at the very least. He said, a cinematic can only ever be as good as its build-up. So, I don't know, right? That was his answer.
I think
to
that's
the cinematics,
true.
And it just sort of felt to me as if he was saying,
think that's true.
Bro, what the fuck do you want me to do? Like, this is all I have, right?
That's a very insightful answer. I'm trying to think, is there any exceptions to that? I'd say the WoD cinematic is an exception. Like, there was no real build up to the WoD cinematic. Nobody knew what the fuck was going to happen. And then just out of fucking nowhere, in my opinion, I think the WoD cinematic is as good as the Lich King cinematic. I think those two are like tied for first place of best and greatest cinematic of all time in WoW. Like, it's better in my opinion. I think that if you take the nostalgia away from the Lich King and you just look at them objectively, that the WoD one is better. You're right. And, like, there was no build up for that. It was just fucking insanely good. But you could say that to a degree there is build-up, right? Because you know Garrosh, you know Grom, you know the story. And, like, so, like, there's the build-up of knowing the context behind it. But I don't know. It's like you're getting into granular. You're splitting hairs at that point. Yeah, times change. That's the thing is, like, you had... you had Garrosh as, like, such a good fucking character. Like, the times change. Like, he's actually just, like, this super intelligent... or not really super intelligent, but like very intelligent, like noble savage type orc who's like really thoughtful in a way. Like, you have a really good character and it just didn't go anywhere. Yeah, cunning.
Doing the best I can with the fucking story that I'm given, but the fact that you guys aren't buying into the cinematics really is my fault, right? I just don't. I can only work with what I have. And he's not wrong, right? The reason so many of us bought into Old Soldier is because, you know,
it was good.
This has been a long time coming. This was a very emotional connection that we had to Saurfang, and the fact that Zappy Boy was introduced alongside Saurfang made Zappy Boy a very beloved character.
Yeah, he's a great character
within that cinematic, and it just sort of took things forward, and it was sort of that moment of sort of, you know, passing the torch, if you will. The reason the cinematic where Sylvanas kills Saurfang again hit home was because of the journey that we've all been on with these characters. And then you look at the cinematics of Shadowlands and you sort of realize that these cinematics don't hit the same. The cinematic, for example, with Tyrande and Elune is just, it's incredibly bland and boring.
Well, the thing is, like, you had some really badass parts of that, right? Where, like, Sylvanas tries to fly away, and then Tyrande fucking jumps up there and grabs that bitch and, like, chokes her all the way onto the ground. Like, that was fucking badass. That was so cool. It was super anime, too. Yeah, and, like, I think that's cool, right? I'm fine with that. That was insanely cool. It's like everybody wanted to see that happen. Like, everybody wanted to see Tyrande choke out fucking Sylvanas, right? 100%. And it didn't happen. And it's like, fuck, why not? Elune randomly decided to stop helping Sylvanas. Why? Why? What's the point of this?
I don't feel that emotional thing. I can see that they were trying to be deeply emotional. I didn't get that deep emotional feel from that cinematic. And now it's actually getting a little bit fucking worse, you know? It's getting a little bit worse. Considering the fact that we've just found out that Elune is basically just a construct, right? So, how happy does that make you?
I think that being able to have mystery in a story, like the way that Elune was mysterious, actually makes a story way bigger than what you might imagine.
Hey, everyone.
It makes a story way bigger because you don't know where the edges are. You don't know where the wall is. It just increases the scope, and it increases, like, the mysticism and, like, the wonder of the story. And I think that with like Elune, you had this character that was, like, so mysterious, like, you didn't really understand it. Like, I think the best example was, like, Lovecraft. Like, yeah, for sure you have that. There's other types of mystery too. It's like Lord of the Rings kind of has that with, like, with Sauron. It's like, what really is Sauron? It's like there's a lot of mystery surrounding him, and it's just a lot of good fantasy stories. They have answers, or sorry, they have questions that don't have answers. Where did Ungoliant come from? Where did Tom Bombadil come from? Like, where are these things? Like, these are just, to a certain degree, unanswered questions. And the fact that they're unanswered questions increase the scope and the mysticism and the wonder of the story. And if you answer every single question, then it's not, I think it's not as exciting. Tolkien controlled his readers with Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil came from Detroit. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, of course. Yeah, who were the Blue Wizards? Fucking, what's his name? Alatar and Polinar, whatever. It starts with P, right? It's Alatar and Polando. Yeah, there you go. And Tom better be in the Amazon version. I'm sure that he probably will be. Let's watch this one right now, okay? This is comparing Final Fantasy versus WoW rating. Don't think Blue Wizards did anything right. I think that I think even Tolkien said that even Radagast didn't fucking do anything. Didn't do shit. It was really only Gandalf that did anything. Zach Galifianakis is Tom Bombadil. I mean, that'd be perfect, man. It really would.